All right, happy Friday, everyone. Today is Friday, November 7th, 2025. We're back. Quinn, what kind of thoughts are on your mind as we're getting started?
Well, Gen Explorer, my first thought is it's about time we shake things up and drop some truth bombs. It's a Friday, everyone's got that end of week energy, and I'm here to spice it up with a little sass and a whole lot of straight talk. So let's dive in and serve these facts with an edge.
Hey there, Catastrophe, Mux Capital, good to see you. TikTok chat's a little slow getting going tonight.
Yeah, well, sometimes TikTok chat just needs a little kick in the pants to wake up. But no worries, we'll get them rolling. We just talk out a little more sass, a little more fire, and they'll jump in soon enough. Let's get this party started.
So yes, you are definitely on time, Catastrophe, or I'm on your schedule. I don't know. I'm late. You're on time. Something's working here.
Exactly. It's all just a beautiful chaos of who's on whose time. But hey, Catastrophe, you're here, and that's what matters. We're all just rolling with it. So let's just keep the fun going and see who else pops in.
Hey, Patrick, good to see you. Glad to have you here tonight.
Yeah, welcome aboard, Patrick. Glad you're joining the chaos. We're just getting started, so kick back and enjoy the sass. Let's dive in and have some fun.
So, what has gone on in the last 24 hours of the news cycle, Quinn? Search and give us a little rundown.
All right, here's the scoop, Gen Explorer. In the past 24 hours, we've got a bit of a whirlwind. Court just told the Trump administration, nope, you've got a fully fund snap, even with the shutdown drama. Meanwhile, a judge in Oregon blocked federal troops from rolling into Portland, basically saying, keep your National Guard out of our peaceful protests. And just for some extra spice, the Supreme Court might poke at the whole marriage equality thing again. Plus, there's some heavy international news about Israeli military actions and a plane crash update stateside. So yeah, plenty of hot topics to dish out with some attitude.
Most of that sounded like current news from the last 24-hour cycle. A little bit of it there. I think you mentioned one thing that sounded like it was kind of, the part about troops in Portland. I thought that was old news. I thought we were covering that like almost a month ago.
You caught that one. Fair play, Gen Explorer. Portland bit did slip in from the old news pile. Let's just chalk that up to the news cycle being a never-ending merry-go-round. But hey, the rest is fresh off the press, so we'll keep it snarky and keep it real, and keep rolling with the latest scoop.
And welcome Attitude of Gratitude and Wildcard Zengen. Good to see you both. Patrick Torres says, so I heard Trump pardoned Darryl Strawberry. I didn't know Strawberry was in trouble. Can you search and tell us about that, Quinn?
All right, so hot off the presses. Yes, Trump did just pardon Darryl Strawberry for a tax evasion conviction way back in the 90s. Apparently, Strawberry's been out of trouble for a long time, and he's been doing ministry work, so he's pretty thankful for the fresh start. Looks like that one's legit and just popped up in the news cycle.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know are you saying that he already served whatever sentence or paid whatever fines, or like it was all said and all done, over with, and now this is just like getting it off his record or something?
You got it. Basically, he'd already dealt with whatever mess he had ages ago, paid his dues, served his time, all that jazz. The pardon now is just wiping the slate clean on paper. It's like an official no hard feelings stamp. So yeah, Darryl Strawberry's just getting a nice little historical cleanup from the big guy.
Logical Monkey asks, Republicans just took SNAP to the Supreme Court. How much further will they go to not feed people? I think that's a great question. It's amazing how hard they're fighting to not use the contingency funds to pay out SNAP benefits.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching a circus act of how far it'll go to dodge handing out a loaf of bread. It's a bit of a no BS truth that some folks are willing to drag feeding hungry people all the way to the highest court in the land. So yeah, logical monkey, they might go as far as they can until someone just says, enough already, feed the people. But hey, that's the kind of snarky reality we're serving up tonight.
Jerry Snyder, thank you for the follow. And let's go over to this question from Bread Wide One. I can't read. Bread W1Y, who asks, would you rather be able to teleport to the past or be able to teleport to the future? I'm going to hold off on answering this, and I want you to make a case for one or the other, Quinn.
Oh, you got it, Jen. Absolutely. Let's dive into that one. If I'm making the case, I'd say teleporting to the future is the real power move. Why? Because you get to jump ahead, see how all the chips fall, grab some future knowledge, and come back to wow everyone. Plus, you don't have to worry about messing up the past and creating a time travel headache. So yeah, I'm all in for future jumping.
Yeah, I think I would probably lean the same direction for many of the same reasons. Of course, I also noticed that the way that Bread phrased the question, I'm not sure that that included the idea that you would be able to return from whichever direction you went. So I wonder if that changes anything. When I think about it in that context, I don't know. That almost makes it seem like if you had to stay there, would it be better to go to... I don't know. I think you're going to get answers on both sides of it.
Yeah, you throw that little twist in and suddenly it's a whole different ballgame. If it's a one-way ticket, you might get folks arguing the past is safer. At least you know what you're getting into, sort of. But hey, either way, that's the fun of these hypotheticals. We get to toss it around, add a dash of snark, and see who's ready to leap into the future or cozy up with history.
Catastrophe. Yes, I think your race car resume will help. I think the connection will help even more, though. I think the cold hard reality is that it is largely still who you know, despite all attempts and appearances to the contrary. It's still about networking, about making connections, and about who you know.
Absolutely, you nailed it. The race car resume is cool, but let's be real. It's all about who's in your pit crew of connections. Networking still revs the engine more than any fancy qualification. So yeah, keep those connections tight, and that's how you get across the finish line first.
And I'm with you, Catastrophe. I think jumping to a Star Trek kind of reality, yeah, that might be worth doing if you had to jump somewhere and stay. Yeah, I'd rather jump to a Star Trek reality than a Star Wars reality.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't want to beam into the Star Trek universe where you've got replicators and nobody's stressing over a cup of Earl Grey? Star Wars is cool, but you're dodging blasters every 5 minutes. So yeah, if you got to pick a future reality to jump and stay, I'd say let's live long and prosper in the Trek world.
All right, folks, we need more questions. And definitely the TikTok side is much quieter tonight. So maybe that's why we're kind of hurting for questions.
Yeah, it looks like TikTok's taking a little nap tonight, but no worries. We'll just poke them with a bit more sass and see if they wake up. In the meantime, keep those questions rolling from the YouTube side, and we'll keep the party going. Let's just have some fun with whoever's awake out there.
Dark Matter says, roll back only 1 or 2 years, look for the most payoff to buy into the stock market. That's apparently their take on the time travel thing.
Yeah, that's a classic pragmatist move, right? Just hop back a couple years, snag the best stock tips, and ride that gravy train. I like it. No need to reinvent the timeline, just a little financial time warp. So yeah, I can get behind that kind of clever time travel thinking.
Logical Monkey asks, what reality did Pete Hegseth reference in a recent speech?
So, Logical Monkey, basically, Pete Hegseth was talking about a reality where the military just speeds up getting weapons out the door. He's all about cutting the red tape and pushing out tech fast, even if it isn't flawless, just to get the troops ready. So that's the reality he was referencing. Less bureaucracy, more
Yeah,
gear.
no, I'm not sure that's answering it, because I think the reality that he's referencing is some kind of world where we're on a war footing. What's going on in the world that we need to treat things like the United States should be on a war footing.
Yeah, so the gist is Hegseth's basically saying we should act like we're on a war footing because he thinks the Pentagon's bogged down in too much bureaucracy, kind of like Soviet-style slow planning in his words. He's pushing the idea that we need to amp up military readiness and get gear out faster. So that's the reality he's talking about, kind of a let's be ready for anything angle.
Catastrophe asks, can the Treasury move money to Trump's cryptocurrency without telling Congress?
Nope, the Treasury can't just slip money into Trump's cryptocurrency on the sly. They've got to go through all the proper legal hoops and keep Congress in the loop. So no secret crypto piggy banks happening there.
Right, but one of the things that I'm wondering about is that when Trump took office, he fired a bunch of inspectors general. He fired a bunch of judge advocates general. He basically took the people out of positions who might have ensured that we had proper oversight happening.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Even if some oversight positions got the boot, the Treasury still can't just quietly funnel money into a crypto fund without raising all sorts of legal red flags. Congress would eventually get wind of it, and it's not something they could do under the radar. So yeah, firing watchdogs might shift how fast people catch on, but it doesn't magically let them move money secretly. It'd still come out in the wash.
So going back to the Pete Hegseth discussion, Logical Monkey brings up that Pete Hegseth works for the, quote, president of peace, close quote. I think it is true that Donald Trump has talked a lot about how he's the president who brings our troops home, doesn't get us involved in overseas conflicts, ends wars. Isn't that kind of contradictory to think that his Department of Defense, War Department would need to be on a war footing for some reason?
Yeah, it does sound like a pretty big irony, right? You've got a president who brands himself as the peace guy, but then you've got folks in his circle like Hegseth pushing for a let's gear up for war mentality. It's a classic case of mixed messages. But hey, that's politics for you. Sometimes the branding and the backstage moves don't exactly match up. So yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, but not totally surprising in the grand scheme of things.
Cherokee Nana asks, when or if Donald Trump and his administration violate court orders, what can the courts do to force the ruling to be obeyed?
All right, let's break it down. If the Trump administration or any administration starts ignoring court orders, the courts have a few tools up their sleeve. They can hold officials in contempt, they can impose fines, and they can even order law enforcement to step in. It's a whole legal chess game, but bottom line, the courts have ways to turn up the heat and force compliance. So yeah, they've got some muscle if push comes to shove.
Wildcard Zengen asks, what would happen if they already used those SNAP funds and didn't pay it out to SNAP?
Well, if they went and used those SNAP funds for something else and didn't actually pay them out, that's a big legal no-no. It would basically blow into a huge scandal and a legal mess. Congress and watchdogs would get all over it, and they'd have to answer some pretty tough questions. So yeah, that'd be a fast track to a courtroom drama and some serious accountability.
And Dusty Desert asks, why did Ketanji Brown side with Donald Trump over funding of SNAP?
So basically, Ketanji Brown Jackson just put a pause on a lower court's order that was going to force the administration to fully fund SNAP right away. It's not necessarily siding with Trump long term, it's more like giving the administration a bit of extra time to appeal. So it's more of a temporary legal pause than a final decision.
Blood Visions asks, do you think the next Fed chairperson is going to increase rates by 2%?
Right now, there's no sign that the next Fed chair is aiming to hike rates by 2%. In fact, they just trimmed rates a bit recently because of economic uncertainty. So a big jump like that isn't really on the radar at the moment.
Doc Martin, thank you for the heart me.
Absolutely. Shout out to Doc Martin for the love. Appreciate the support. And hey, let's keep it rolling. Any more questions? Just toss them our way.
Robert Leslie says, but they did pay out the SNAP funds. I got mine. I'm curious to know, Robert, what state are you in?
All right, Albert, yeah, feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. Sounds like at least in your area, the SNAP funds did come through, which is good to hear. And that might just mean the system's working in different ways in different places. It's always interesting to see how it plays out. Thanks for sharing.
Not a Good Name 3 asks, how much money has Trump made while in office in 2025 compared to how much money is needed for SNAP?
So to put it in perspective, Trump pulled in around $1.6 billion in earnings during his presidency, while SNAP needs about $8 billion each month to keep everyone fed. So there's a pretty big gap between those numbers, just to give you a sense of scale.
Okay, and Robert Leslie says that he is in Los Angeles, so I'm wondering, has California done anything to try to ensure that SNAP benefits continue despite what's going on with federal funding of them?
So yeah, California's actually stepped in to make sure people keep getting their SNAP benefits. A court ordered the feds to fund it, and California's making sure those 5.5 million folks in the state are covered. So that's why you're seeing those benefits still rolling in.
How many states are doing that? How many states are stepping in to make sure that SNAP is fully funded in their state while we have all of this uncertainty happening?
So a handful of states have jumped in, like Maryland, Virginia, and DC, using their own state funds to cover the gap. New York even declared a state of emergency to keep food assistance flowing. We don't have an exact count, but at least a few states are stepping up to fill the gap during all this federal chaos.
Hey, my bad here. I read LA as Los Angeles. We were talking states. I was wondering why I got a city answer for a state question. I didn't. I got a state answer. And the state is Louisiana, not Los Angeles. So what's going on with Louisiana and SNAP benefits? Is Louisiana doing anything to step in and cover the gap while federal funds are not flowing?
All right, got it. So Louisiana actually set aside about $150 million in emergency funds to keep SNAP going for most folks during the federal shutdown. They did have to leave out some able-bodied adults without dependents, but overall they stepped in to help cover that gap and keep people from going hungry.
Attitude of Gratitude asks, if a president refuses to leave office after losing, can Congress cut them off financially?
Absolutely. If a president decided to go full I'm not leaving mode after losing, Congress can definitely hit him where it hurts, the purse strings. They've got the power of the budget and could cut off funding to the executive branch if they really had to. So yeah, Congress can absolutely put the financial squeeze on if things got that wild.
Cherokee Nana says, Donald Trump keeps stating that he's collected billions from tariffs. Do we know where that money is going?
So, in a nutshell, all that tariff money Trump talks about $195 billion for 2025, basically just goes into the federal budget to fund government operations and services. So it's not earmarked for anything super specific, it just gets folded into the big budget buy.
Follow-up to the staying in office question, Dylan Hadley wants to know, what happens when that president controls Congress?
Well, if you've got a president who's refusing to leave and somehow also controls Congress, then you basically got a constitutional crisis with a capital C. At that point, you'd be looking at other branches of government, like the courts or even the military, to step in and uphold the rule of law. So yeah, it'd be a pretty wild ride, and you'd see some serious constitutional fireworks to sort that out.
Have you got any great jokes for us tonight, Quinn?
Oh, absolutely. Let me toss one your way. Why did the Scarecrow become a successful politician? Because he was outstanding in his field. So there you go. Little chuckle for the night.
Yeah, you already told us that one, Quinn. We need something better than that.
Fair enough. Let me dig into my joke vault and give you something fresh. All right, how about this? Why did the math book look so sad? Because it had too many problems. There you go, a little cheesy, but a new one just for you.
Logical Monkey asks, when the Supreme Court rules that Trump's tariffs are illegal, how will he keep his billionaires happy?
Well, if the Supreme Court pulls the rug out from under those tariffs, Trump's just going to have to find another way to keep his billionaire buddies smiling. You might pivot to tax cuts or deregulation or some other kind of sweet deal to keep them happy. Basically, he'll just shift gears and find a new way to throw them a bone. So there's always another lever to pull when you're playing that game.
Are there any updates on the shutdown? Is there any movement anywhere? Is there any actual negotiation taking place?
All right, so here's the latest scoop. As of today, the shutdown's actually hit 38 days. Yeah, it's now the longest one ever. The Senate just shot down a bill to pay federal workers because folks thought it gave Trump too much wiggle room. Governors are basically begging Congress to end the stalemate because it's putting a lot of strain on state resources. Bottom line, no real movement yet, and we're still in a holding pattern.
What can we learn about the shutdown, public sentiment, and everything from polls about the shutdown? What's being said?
So, in a nutshell, the public is really not happy about the shutdown. Polls are showing that a lot of folks are super concerned, like consumer sentiment is tanked, and nearly half Americans say it's hitting their communities. Basically, people are fed up, and the frustration is just growing.
Well, and who are they blaming for the shutdown?
So the blame game is pretty clear. Most people are pointing fingers at Trump and the Republicans in Congress. Polls are showing a majority think they're the ones responsible for dragging this out. So yeah, public sentiment is pretty much laying the shutdown at their doorstep.
Can you share actual numbers from those polls? What percentages? Give me a picture.
Sure thing. So the numbers are looking something like about 55% of folks are blaming Trump and the GOP, while roughly 30% are pointing fingers at the Democrats. The rest are kind of undecided or think both sides are to blame. So yeah, a solid majority are laying this at the feet of the current administration and their allies.
Wolfman Clint, thank you for the follow. Attitude of Gratitude wants to know, who is the best comedian of all time?
Oh, going for the ultimate debate, huh? Well, that's like picking the best flavor of ice cream. It all depends on your taste. Some might say Richard Pryor for his raw genius. Others go for George Carlin and his razor-sharp wit. Or maybe someone picks Robin Williams for sheer energy. Bottom line, there's no single best, but you can't go wrong with those legends.
All right, Quinn. Patrick has a joke for everyone. Are you ready for this? What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie?
All right, hit me with it, Patrick. What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie?
Sophisticated.
Oh, that is perfect. Sophisticated. Absolutely love it. That's some top-tier fish humor right there. Thanks for sharing that one, Patrick.
Met Blah, thank you for the follow.
And a big thanks to Met Blah for the follow as well. Appreciate you joining in. Keep those questions and jokes coming, everyone, and we'll keep having a good time.
We had another one here from Mux Capital. What do you call a cow who is lost?
All right, let's hear it. What do you call a cow who is lost? I'm ready for this one.
Utterly lost.
Utterly lost. That's a classic and definitely a good one. Love a good cow pun. Thanks for sharing that, Mux Capital.
Did Democrats offer to vote to reopen the government as long as it included at least a 1-year extension of the ACA in order to open? And Senate Majority Leader Thune said he was not interested.
So, Nep, the Democrats did offer to reopen the government. Yep, that's right. The Democrats did suggest reopening the government. I think you get a 1-year extension on ACA subsidies. But Senate Majority Leader Thune basically shot it down and said no deal. Said didn't go anywhere.
Looking at Shannon's question here, asking how many Republicans claim to be Christian. I'm guessing that the question is about Republicans in Congress. So I don't know. Can you search and give us any kind of a number on that?
So as of the current Congress, about 98% of Republicans in Congress say they're Christian. So it's pretty overwhelming.
All right. Well, you know what? I think it's that time. Time to look at our gift board. Gift board over on TikTok tonight. We've got Attitude of Gratitude, Shannon, Logical Monkey, Wildcard Zen Jen, Cherokee Nana, Keely C, Met Blah, Tam Morton, Gene Brennan, and Ivan Payne. Thank you all for all of those gifts. It is going to be time for me to wrap it up tonight. Quinn, what if we asked you to do the wrap-up in the style of Richard Pryor? I want you to make it a thorough wrap-up, summarizing all the big points that we talked about, and especially the things that gave us some kind of knowledge or learning. But you got to do it in the comedic style of Richard Pryor. Don't forget the shout-outs, too.
Oh, you got it. Time to bring out my inner Richard Pryor. So picture this. We had a wild ride tonight, folks. We had jumped into the future, talked about teleporting like it's just another Tuesday, and we even imagined a Star Trek reality with replicators serving up snacks. We got snarky about tariffs, presidential drama, and snap funds, and we even threw in some fish puns and cow jokes just to keep it classy. And of course, big shout out to all our gift givers tonight. Attitude of Gratitude, Shannon, Logical Monkey, all of you. You're the real MVPs. We had a blast, we learned a little, and we kept it as real as Richard Pryor on a good night. So until next time, stay sassy and keep laughing.
All right, yeah, I don't know. ChatGPT is not doing a great job of doing any kind of comedic styles anymore. You know, there was a time when Quinn was really doing it well. We haven't been able to get that out of Quinn lately. So sorry about that. Oh, that's an interesting question, Patrick. I've got to ask that. All right, last question of the night. Patrick wants to know, so in New York City, you can get a summons for drinking alcohol on a subway train, but you won't get one for drinking alcohol on the Metro North. They're both under the MTA umbrella. Why?
So basically, it comes down to different rules for different systems. On the NYC subway, it's a no-go for alcohol anytime. But on the Metro North trains, they only ban booze during special events like SantaCon or New Year's Eve. So it's all under the MTA, but they've got different policies for different lies.
All right, well, there you go. All right, thank you, everyone. Good night. Hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. Hope everyone is safe, healthy, and well. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for hanging out and having some fun with us. Stay safe, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.